I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo,
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpn.fm to discover more.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have a very special guest. If you were obsessed with the 1998 Cats movie, then get excited because my guest today played the magical Mr. Mistoffelees. I am very excited to have him here today, so welcome Jacob Brent, and thank you for joining me.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. It's awesome.
I will say before we start that of all the people I always ask, like, hey, who should I have on the podcast? You are a name that has come up very frequently, and so I am thrilled to have you.
Okay, that's a little silly to me, but yes, I kind of understand it, but I'm so happy to be here. I have enjoyed listening to other episodes and hearing friends of mine talk, and I have heard my name a few times. So it's awesome. I'm glad to be here. Share my knowledge.
Well, and I think what's fun is that my first question to most people, especially like the newer cast members and the Broadway revival, is what was your exposure to the content, to Cats? And most of everyone was obsessed with the 1998 movie, and here you are as a major part of that. And you're on one of the most iconic pictures from that is you hugging old Deuteronomy. And so what was your first exposure to Cats as someone who predates it and, the 98 movie, and obviously we're on Broadway before that?
Yeah, wow, not much. This is before internet, YouTube, all that stuff, like, you know what I mean? Like, so honestly, like Macy's Christmas Parade, I saw some Cats on there at one point. I remember watching a thing for the opening. They did something on like the news about it, and it gave a glimpse. But Cameron McIntosh was very particular about not having any of the Cats outside of the theater, which, in sort of his brilliance beginning of his brilliant marketing, is like the theater was painted black. All you saw were those cat eyes, and you really had to come into the theater to even understand what this thing was about. And I think that caused some of the mystique around it. And like, oh my God, did you see it? So it was, growing up, I didn't really have much to see. I sort of had the cast album, and the inside of the album, there were some blurry pictures of some cats that you kind of could make out. Yeah, I didn't have much, but it's funny that you're saying about that video, because when we did make it, I was like, we didn't know if anybody would even watch this thing. Like we had no idea. And when we did that, there was not very many Broadway shows recorded then. There was they recorded Into the Woods. They had recorded Sunday in the Park with George, both Sondheim shows, and maybe a few others. Like there was a recording of Pirates of Penzance that was around, but no one had done like what we were doing. And so we were like, we had no idea. This could have been an epic fail. It could have been what it's turned out to be. And we didn't know what it would do to the show, whether it would close the show, whether it would keep it open. There was a lot of rumors about like, oh, we're making this and then they're going to close the show. And then it ran for like 7 more years after that and became even more popular. But it is exciting for me to go to currently a Broadway show. Like if I go to a show and I usually know somebody in the cast and go backstage and someone comes up to me and says, oh my gosh, you were the reason that I'm in this business because I grew up watching that video, and it's never lost on me. And it's just one of those like incredible things that I just would not have even dreamed about, or it's just the best gift anybody can give you, right? To be like, because of you, I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that too, because you when you're doing it, you have no idea what the impact is going to be. You never know when you're shooting something if it's going to be this like long-standing years worth of, like everyone has seen it. I mean, almost everyone I talk to has seen it and been obsessed with that film. And then you hear everyone's, especially your particular role, like that dance number or something that everyone's like, oh yeah, I tried to do either Victoria or your dance number. I was like, those are the two dance numbers everyone tried to mimic if they're a dancer. And so you have this thing that you don't even recognize at the time is going to turn into what it is. And now looking back, you're seeing the impact, years later. That's a pretty cool experience, I'm sure.
Yeah. And the other thing is like when you do, like they did this thing, this weird, I don't know if they do this on, I don't know how other movies work, but this one, they like lined us up in like order of lines, like who had the most lines in the show. And they like a camera was assigned to them. And I have like some of the fewest lines. So I just thought, I'm not getting any camera time. There's no way. Like I'll be like, you'll kind of see me run through. And then we got a rough cut. I got invited to a rough cut of the show. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like all over this thing. And I really had no idea when we were filming it. None. I didn't know what shots they were doing, which made it, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but that made this filming so much harder because we didn't know what shots they were doing. So you had to be on every single take because you just did not know where they were filming.
Well, that's kind of fascinating in itself. And in a show that is, some of the most important characters actually don't have that a ton of lines because it is seeing a whole family. But then seeing how much, you also got like the little CGI. I always used to joke when I saw that movie. It's like, oh, the effects that got added are in your scene.
Oh yeah.
Like you got compared to the 2019 CGI Cats FX, like you got the very small thing there. But that is kind of fascinating too. And so I do want to hear a little bit about your just whole, including the movie, your whole run in Cats, because I know you started as Constable on Broadway. You obviously were as Mistoffelees on Broadway, and then I know you went to the West End. So what was that journey like for the multiple years you got to perform in the show?
Yeah, I'll try to truncate this because it's a long time, right? And I always joke I kind of have a doctorate and master and Cats because I've been there so long. I had done a show before, Cats, called Starlight Express, another Weber show. And I did that out in Vegas, and I wanted to leave there and go to New York. And I got to New York, and I don't know, there was just something, I was so naive about the business. I did not go to college for this business. I just started right out of high school, which is funny enough because now I run a musical theater program at a college. And so, but I did go back later, and I like, after Cats, I went back to school and I got my master's and all that. And now I teach. But yeah, I just didn't know. I didn't know what you weren't supposed to do, right? So I came in. I actually called the casting director, which was Tara Rubin at the time. She had just taken over for Vinnie Liff, and it was her first casting assignment on her own. And so I got to New York and I called her office and just said, hey, I just got back. My name's Jacob Brent. I just got back to town. I just did Starlight Express. I'm really right for Cats. You should see me. I mean, who does that, right? Like crazy. And they actually were like, great. Can we see you on Wednesday? And they were like, we're bringing some people in. We have an immediate replacement. Well, they said, how tall are you? And I was like 5'8". They were like, great, come in. And it was one of those, like, I call old school auditions where it happened on the stage. So we went to the theater, checked in. There was like 10 or 12 of us. It was on the stage. We danced, we sang, we danced, we danced, we danced, we danced. And they just kept cutting it down. And I just kept staying. I was like, wow, this is fun. And Cynthia Onrubia, who was the original White Cat on Broadway, was the dance supervisor at the time. And it was me, and it got down to me, and like people had done the show or done the tour. And she just had decided that she didn't want somebody that had done the show before. She wanted someone fresh. So I happened to be there, and I got the Broadway show. And I covered Mistoffelees for the first 6-8 months, and I was Pouncible. random brown cat that covers another dancing cat. And the first time I went on was crazy story. As you know, Mistoffelees comes down in that rope. There's in that version, he comes down in a rope, it lights up, blah blah blah. Yeah, everybody, and we sing that song forever. The rope comes down, and there's no Mistoffelees on it. Something had happened up in the grid, and the stagehand pulled the Mistoffelees off the rope. First, I don't know what happened. So the rope comes down. There's no Mistoffelees, and in that theater, it's like 5 flights up so there was no way he was getting down to the stage. So Tugger just comes over, grabs me by the shoulders. I've been in the show for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month. I think I had one rehearsal as Mistoffelees. He grabbed me in the shoulders. He threw me down stage. He grabbed me and he said, "You're on." And he threw me down stage, and I just started dancing the dance. And I had never done it as Pouncival, dressed as Pouncival. This poor audience had no idea what was going on.
That is kind of crazy. So I wonder how many people notice someone who'd seen it before is ready. I mean, Mistoffelees' number is pretty iconic, and then all of a sudden they've got Pouncival of doing the turns and the whole thing. That has to be, the show must go on.
Well, the Pouncival track always generally covers Mistoffelees. Like that's 99% of the time. But I just had joined and not had any rehearsal. So I hadn't done the bucket toss. I hadn't done the cape. None of it. I had no idea. And it was pretty exciting. It was kind of exciting. I don't really remember it because it just was like out of body experience. But everybody was like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe you just did that." And so yeah, I did that. And Mistoffelees, then after he came down, he finally came on for like the last third, and that was weird because then he jumped on stage and took over, and it was just a bizarre mess. But that was kind of how the first time I went on, and then I kept getting put on more regularly, and because he broke that Mistoffelees ended up breaking his foot walking up stage. We were walking up stage, and I heard this like gunshot. This was another performance, and it sounded like a gunshot. And he said, "I think I've broken my foot," and he walked off stage, and he never came back on. And he crawled off stage, and I just moved over because Mistoffelees and Pouncival dance side by side a lot, as you see on that video, right? And then I just moved over a slot, and from that moment, I just kind of took over. I didn't ever do Pouncival again. They just ended up, he didn't come back. They ended up offering me the role, and that was sort of that. And then I stayed in New York for about 9 years doing Mistoffelees.
They probably thought if you can do it with one rehearsal on the fly, with basically no prep, then you'd be fine. You'd be ready to do it with practice.
Well, funny enough, they had many auditions, and I knew they were auditioning for the role. And this was about after the third audition. I went to the dance supervisor at the time, who was not Cynthia's, Richard Stafford. And no tea to Richard, I love him. We're great friends now. But he literally said, "If we don't find anyone else, we're going to offer you the role." And I just thought, wow, if you don't find anyone else, like how much more do I have to do to get, what else can I do? Like, right? I can't do anything else. Like I've proven myself. But that's just show business sometimes. And I think what they were nervous about was I was such a good cover. And I was able to jump on and do it at a minute. Like I could just do it, and I had those tricks, and I could just pull them out and do them. That they were nervous about losing such a good cover. So they were trying to find somebody else, but then they didn't. And then Jillian came, saw me in the show, and then that was it. Jillian was like, give him the role. He's done. Like, we're done with this. So
do you ever go back to Richard and say, now, 9 years after that, when you're the iconic member of the movie, and it's like, hey?
No, we've never talked about it. And he probably is going to listen to this and be like, what? But no, I love him. I love no tea. It was just, he was doing his job. The producers were like, I get it. Show business. That was the business of show at that point. So you just kind of have to give it up and be like, okay, it'll land where it's supposed to land.
And then how'd you end up at the West End at you finished Broadway?
Oh my gosh. Oh, the West End came way later. So then Cats breaks the record for longest running Broadway show. I get to perform that. I get to be Mistoffelees in that. And that was unbelievable. That was like, that night I was like, I've made it. Like, that is it. This is what I wanted to do. I have climbed the mountain. I am at the top. Like, whatever happens after this is just gravy, right? Looking out there, looking at those legendary people sitting in that audience, it was just overwhelming. And having my parents, I'm going to cry talking about it, but having my parents there and seeing that and being able to perform that role and like have that moment at the end, I just remember this mass of sound coming at me at the end of my number. And I just thought, wow, I can't do more than that. I mean, that is like a repayment to your parents who have like sacrificed and made all this happen and sent you to dance class and took you every day and like, you know, paid for you, like when I called living in New York being like, I got like 2 cents. Can you please send me some money? Like, you know, and then to have that happen, it just makes it like full circle. You're like, this was all worth it. And so that was truly, truly amazing. We had this party afterwards, this like cast party. And Jillian and Andrew and Trevor and I think it was just them. They were all sitting at a table and they called me over and Jillian was like, hey, we're going to make a movie of Cats. We're making a movie and we want you to play Mistoffelees. And I thought, well, that sure is sweet, right? Like, and up at this time, like, no one from the Broadway show got the movie. No one. You know what I mean? Like, Mary Martin didn't get Sound of Music. It went to Julie Andrews, right? Carol Channing didn't get Hello Dolly. It goes to Barbra Streisand, right? Like, and I'm not equating myself to those people, but I'm just saying, like, people from Broadway don't get the movies at that point. So I just thought, oh, you're going to hire someone from American Ballet Theater. You're going to hire someone from the Royal Ballet. You're not going to take me. And then like 3 months later, they called and they were like, great, we're shooting the movie. We want you to be in it. And I was like, well, I'm in the Broadway show. And they were like, yeah, we know. And I was like, well, I have to talk to them to get out of it. And they were like, it's already done. Like, Andrew called and you're out of the show and you're coming to do the movie. So I went to do the movie, which was great. We can get more into that. That was a 3-month process. And it was awesome. Really just amazing. And then I came back to New York and I actually ended up having surgery. I finally got injured and had to have surgery. And I came back to the show, made it back to the show. And then I gave my notice that I was leaving. And then about a month later, they gave the notice that the Broadway show was closing. So I always like to say that I left and then the Broadway show closed. But that is not true. That's not how it happened. And then I had heard from the Cats fraternity, sorority, you know, the like family that happens. I'm sure you're understanding this family from this podcast of like how we're all kind of connected. That they could not find a Mistoffelees in the London production. So again, I just called Jillian and was like, hey, I'm available. I've had enough time off. I've recovered. I'm ready to go. Put me in, coach. And they did. They called and they flew me over, and that was awesome because that was a different thing. Like I went in as sort of a celebrity star. At this point now, my pictures on the billboard, you know, and they really like, were like, we have the guy from the movie, come see us. And so that was just a whole different experience. And a different experience being sort of a celebrity in a show and holding and the weight of that, carrying the weight of that, carrying the like responsibility of, you know, when I did it the first time, it was just me. And I was like, Jacob. And I just like ran and did my thing and did my tricks and yeah, and it was so fun and young and like woo woo. And then it got I got children coming to see me. I got people dressing up as me. I have people holding signs in the audience, making things for me, and it just was bizarre. And I didn't quite know how to handle it. And so I had some great mentors that I went to, and I was like, what do I do with this? Like, what this is like crazy responsibility. And so they kind of helped me through it. But the London was fun because it was like just a different approach to the show. But the show was completely different too, which is crazy.
Yeah. I want to go back to the movie a little bit, because I think something that as I'm hearing you talk about it, I don't think I ever registered, which is I just kind of always assumed, especially coming from somebody whose Broadway knowledge is much more from the last 5 or 6 years and not prior. Like I didn't grow up in musical theater. I didn't grow up watching a lot of this stuff. I just kind of assumed that this was the 1988 movie was a pro shot, like it's like what we see more common today. But hearing you say it was a 3-month and equating it more to Sound of Music and other stuff, like it was a movie. And so tell me more about that. Like, I don't know is that a me thing, or do people know that? Like, I just always assumed that this was much more of a pro shot.
I don't know that. I mean, it was not a pro shot. It was filmed. We took 3 months. We rehearsed for 2 months. They brought this group together from around the world. We had different people we had people from the German production, from France production, all over, the West End production, American production. And we rehearsed the show from scratch, starting day one. Jillian brought us in, sat us down. We did animal work for like 2 days straight. No choreography. All we did was crawl around and sniff things and bathe ourselves. And we put that show together as if it was a brand new company. And it was awesome. It was awesome because because everyone had done the show. So it wasn't like new information, but what we got to do was like dig for gems, right? Like mine for like, what else is in there? What other stories can we tell in this? And then we took about a month to shoot it. And we did shoot it. It was all film people. They had never done a musical. It was all like our Steadicam guy was the guy he had just come from doing James Bond, the James Bond movie. So they were like, what the F is this? Like they were also like, it was treated much like a movie shoot. Like we had a call sheet, boom, boom, blah, like all the things. It was not a couple of performances that they filmed, right? We went in, like we spent a day. There was like a day just on my number. Like it was a number a day, basically. And it was forever. Like we just ran it and ran it and ran it. And close-ups, mid-shots, wide shots, blah, 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 blah. We did do it twice or 3 times through completely. Oh, and there was no audience. So they took all the seats out of the theater so that all these cameras are set up all around the theater. We did it 3 times. I think it was 3 times all the way through without stopping with a 16 camera shoot, which was unheard of. It's still unheard of. Those cameras were everywhere, in the trash, upstairs, down, like everywhere. So you couldn't like relax. There was times when you're doing the live show, right? You can turn around upstage and kind of like breathe and like relax your face and stick out your tongue and be like, oh my God, comment on whatever just had happened. But you couldn't do that when we were shooting the movie because there was a camera there. And they would catch it. So yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy shoot. I remember just being like, this is bizarre. This is nuts. Enjoy every minute. Try to remember everything because this ain't gonna happen again. Not like this. So it was, it was magical not to be kind of
yeah. It is again such a fascinating thing because I look at it from I only have the historic lens of seeing it. I watched it for the first time in probably 2019, maybe. Like I didn't grow up watching the VHS and burn through them like half the people I interview with. And so I come from it, you know, it was around the same time that Hamilton had their pro shot. And there's so many of these other versions of, just to your point, recording a performance. And yours is obviously so much more than that, because you could tell there's stuff, there's stuff that they couldn't do if there was an audience there. But that's a fascinating piece of this. And it's obviously something that has lived so long. Like it's still, everyone that I talk to is still obsessed with it and has copies. And now they're showing their kids, and they're starting them early with that.
It's crazy.
With that video as
It's
the
awesome.
core of it.
It's awesome. Well, and the thing is, this is really good. I mean, I'm a little biased, but like, it's good. It's a good representation of what the Broadway show was. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be back for more of this catastrophe after a short break.
Now, I do want to, this is the part I've been most excited to talk to you about. So I always ask, and I want to still hear your answer to this, but I want to ask this question to you kind of two ways. Because my obsession with the show is the backstories of the characters and the unanswered questions that you can try to take. You can try to fill in the blanks because of staging, or because of like maybe what we think or how people play it. And that's been what, I'm 99, this will be episode 99, where we've asked a lot of people that type of thing. But you have the advantage of having been able to talk to the original Broadway, to where you got told your backstory, but then also you directed a lot of productions after. And so I want to ask, my question is one is, what were you told about Mistoffelees, about everyone else? But then how much of the backstories and characters beyond the 3 words do you give as a director when you get to go and start, starting a new show from scratch, and you've got someone who maybe has never done it and only knows that 1998 movie? How do you tell them, here's how much you need to know, and here's how much you need to fill in the blanks?
Oh, I do a lot of work. We sit in a circle and we do a lot of storytelling. And that's where I think the heart of the show is. It is, at the end of the day, all theater is just like, it goes back to cave people, right? Like sitting around a fire telling a story. And so if we don't get that story right, the poor audience has no idea what's going on. Absolutely none. And especially with cats, like children get it, like kids get it. They don't overcomplicate it. They understand exactly what's going on. That's why it's so popular, I think, with children. But it was not made to be a children's show. I think that was a byproduct that came later. But if we are clear of what story we're telling and the relationships on the stage, and even if we're not saying words, the audience must understand what's happening. We have to make that clear. So to me, it's like the only thing. It's like the most important thing. And then you have to start dancing, because there is 75 dance numbers, and putting it up, you usually have 2 weeks, so you have to like get going. But so I do give the 3 words. I love that you know that. I've heard people talk about that. I don't think they've been the same 3 words anytime, any production ever. Everyone just, Trevor made this thing up, and now everyone does 3 words, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But it is good to have them, because when you are in the show and you're at a moment that you don't know what to do, you go to those words and it will inform you what you should do. So they are important. But I also don't like people to get locked into them, because cats can be all the things all the time. I have 2, they can be so loving, and then the second they can be like, turn on you and then run away you're like, for what reason is that? So that's that. But yeah. So we talk a lot about the story. I think the story is so important. Most people, I don't know, do you have questions about the story?
Well,
I
have a lot of questions, because I want to hear, like, I've heard a little bit of what you've said, essentially, which is there's like a loose interpretation of what I'd call the Cat's Bible, but it kind of changes production to production, and it's almost like I always call it a game of telephone. Like, there was what you heard from Trevor, and the initial very first, like, here's exactly what we thought. but I don't think that some of the thought that the fans have gone into were actually even thought about. You know, like there's probably some relationships that the fans have put together that nobody else has thought about. And then now it seems like over time, there's been, okay, this is definitely true. This could be true. We don't actually think about this. So I'm curious as a director,
Yeah.
how much do you,
I got you.
how much do you go into, and maybe I can just start naming you some characters and you can tell me if any of these theories are correct or incorrect, because I mean, I get conflicting answers just from actors even who have played them of like, I'll give an example of, is Victoria Grisabella's daughter or not? Like that's one where you get conflicting answers. So that's a hard no.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Let's start. Okay. I think we should just go through this.
I mean, I don't know. It just depends on who plays it. I think, you know, if that's what the show is also so open that you could play it that way. But I've never heard that from Trevor, from Jillian, from anyone like that information. That's not, I have not heard that. I'm not saying that you can't play that. I've also like Mistoffelees and Victoria are not a couple. They're not. I know that's a big one. Everybody wants Tugger and Mistoffelees together. That's not gonna happen. Like, no. I think in real life there's been some Tugger Mistoffelees connections that have been made in some productions. And so that's why that kind of comes through. But yeah, that is not a thing. So I guess the biggest thing is for me and with Mistoffelees is that, you know, he's sort of like, also Mistoffelees should be about like 13 years old. He's not like an adult. He is like this like teen kid who has these magical powers. And what we came up with, and I think a lot of the solidifying the story came from doing the movie, came from going back in, looking at it, all these people knowing their characters so well and coming in and saying, what if we did this? Like, wouldn't this always makes sense to me that I would react to this cat this way. And we said, okay, so if you do that, like, what was the story there? We had the time to be like, figure that out. So this is a big one that I've always played, is that actually Mistoffelees is actually old Deuteronomy's son, which is going to blow some people's minds when they're here. The reason why is that he does have magical powers, just like Dude, right? He can make things appear, that thing. And this is why old Deuteronomy, I feel like this is so crazy that we're talking about this so seriously, but I love it. But this is why old Deuteronomy has come to the Jellicle Ball tonight. He doesn't always show up, but he's heard about this cat that probably could be his offspring. We don't know, probably. And he wants to come see what he's doing. So that is why he comes. And that is also why there's a whole Demeter part to it too, which I will get into. But I think that is the biggest connection. And Ken Page, who's just Santa Claus, love him so much. And I found that doing the movie. And that iconic jump into his arms, and when I lick his ear, right, and snuggle him, that none of us are acting. That man is the most, I love that man so much, and he helped me through so much of the movie. And I think that's why that resonates so much, is because that take, there was no acting. I just jumped in his arms and I was like, I love you so much. Like, thank you for everything. And I think that is what comes off. But I think that's the big thing that we found. Ken and Jillian and I found that he would come to see, he wanted to check out what Mistoffelees was doing. And that's why he shows up. He doesn't come every year. No, Munkustrap is in charge. Munkustrap would pick the one.
Wow, I don't think I've ever thought about that. I've always just assumed he's almost like serial killer vibe of like, I come in every year to...
No. This is why it's such a big deal when we smell him and we get that scent and we go, wait a minute, old Deuteronomy, like, you guys, he's here. We don't know. Like, this should be like if you believe in Christmas, it should be like Santa Claus is here. Like, this is major.
And the part of you saying that, like, hey, he's coming to see Mistoffelees, is that the like angle that you take as Mistoffelees to pump yourself up, or is that the like as you as a director would go in and say like, the only reason he's showing up this year is to see his son that he's heard about who's magical?
He is. I think he just travels. I think he's just. It's not that he's never been. He's been before, but he doesn't always come. And I think it's this year. He's like, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna make sure I'm there this year. I want to see this kid. I don't think Mistoffelees knows. I don't think you can play like, Dad, he's home. Like, that's wrong. I think Deuteronomy knows, but hasn't. I don't think Mistoffelees knows that Deuteronomy is related. I don't think you can play that, because then it's too familiar. All of them. Syllabub, any of them. Demeter. Oh, here's the thing with Demeter. What was your question with Demeter?
Well, I this is why I've kind of argued jokingly that I don't think kids, and I now have argued this to be teens, should see this show because it's got a very dark background, and it's because the one truth that everyone always tells me, it's like, to your point, you could say, you have the like, hey, Misto and Tuggers are not together. Hey, this is not this. But everyone seems convinced that Demeter was sexually abused by McCavity. And it's like, that's the one core. Everyone's like, there's no arguing there. And I'm like, how is that the one backstory of this very like positive dance heavy musical? Is like, but our one truth is that this one cat was sexually abused by the villain. And so that's been always like a weird piece, as I didn't know any of this stuff when I saw this. I watched it and I thought, oh, this was fun. And then all of a sudden I started reading the backstories and it's crazy.
Yeah, that is true. So she is captured. Demeter has been captured by McCavity. Yeah, right. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I have the cats right. Demeter's captured by McCavity and probably sexually abused and mistreated and blah, blah, all the things, right? She knows that this is the one time a year that everybody gathers. So in her mind, she's like, I've got to get to the Jellicle Ball because I know I'll be safe with everybody else. And that's why at the beginning, we see a cat running. The car lights come, catch the cat. It's Demeter. Demeter is escaping McCavity to come to the safety of the group. And this is what causes McCavity to come to interrupt everything, right? Which is the point they missed in the movie, which I was like, if anybody would have called me, I could have saved you a couple of million. Yeah, so that whole point is true. And we play that. And I think the Demeters that get that are the most successful. That's why Demeter's skittish. That's why she reacts the way she does. She's untrusty. That is why Demeter knows Grisabella, because Demeter's been outside and has seen Grisabella. And that's why Demeter can sing about Grisabella, because she has actually been on the streets and seen her.
Wow. Okay. So she's not just like in the tribe the whole time. She's kind of had her moment away, and that's why she's, recognizes Grisabella.
Right. And that's her like empathy with Grisabella, because she's also been on the outside. And so when you get that connection, you're like, ooh, interesting. And usually the Demeters cover Grisabella, so that's always an interesting thing too.
So I want to go back, and we're going to go through more cats because I have a lot more questions still. But
I love it.
But when you're doing this, you said you got usually 2 weeks, and you're going to do your day or two of storytelling, and you have everybody sitting in a circle. Do you start telling the story from start to finish of like, hey, here's the story of the Jellicles and what you're going to do? Or do you go cat by cat of like, okay, here's now, Demeter, you've been on the outside, and here, like exactly what you just kind of told me?
I'd sort of say a general thing. I talk about Demeter coming together, and then as the time goes, I just kind of like give people nuggets individually. That's the way it was given to us.
Do you have this like written down anywhere? Like, is there like your own cat's Bible?
I do.
You need to publish this.
No, no, you need to hire me because I have the information. But yeah, then you sort of give it away like in pieces to this person and this person, because you also want that like reaction of like of how someone would react to them. Sorry, I'm getting message. I'm gonna turn this off.
I want to go through a couple others because, and obviously, don't give away your bargaining chip to get hired in the future. So we don't have to go that far. But
it's also not mine to write. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't create the show, so it's not mine to like publish and make money off of. That's Jillian's. At the nucleus of the show is Jillian Lent, and that is hers to.
I think there's a world where people want it. Because there's so many questions, like there's just so many questions. Like if you go to the fan Wikipedia page, the headcanon stuff, there's like 4 different answers on some, and it's because somebody in 2016 did this, and someone in original Broadway did this, and the movie did this. And it's kind of what makes it fun, but at the same time, I'm like, there's a definitive answer to some of this stuff. Like some of this stuff, it has started somewhere, and some of it might just be an actor taking some liberties, which you would have to do in a show that is as open-ended in a sense as Cats is.
Yeah. And I think there's room for that. I think we've seen that with this current production. There's room to interpret and like add new things, and I think as long as it's in the story, right? And the world and the that it doesn't go off crazy, like suddenly Skimble is something else, and it's like, no, Skimble is this, he represents this, and he should always represent this. Now, can you do different stuff with that? Of course. But he should be everyone's favorite uncle. Sometimes he tap dances, like in the movie. I thought that was a great addition. Like, have him tap dance on the railroad tracks. That's awesome. But yeah. I just think as long as you're not like changing the folklore, right? And I think that's where it's like, where I have problems with, like, people are going to come for me, don't come for me. But even things in Wicked, like, I feel like, ooh, I don't know if that's true. Like, that didn't, and really? We're supposed to believe that? Okay. Like, that seems different than The Wizard of Oz. Like, we've taken a lot of liberties here. But okay, this is not a Wicked.
People have accepted that a little bit of like they did take some, not like extreme liberties, but they definitely took some liberties there. Because when people have asked me, when I first started this, if I was going to ever look at any other podcast, and everyone's like, you should talk about Wicked, because there's the same type of thing. If there's some unanswered questions that people would want to dig into, but I'm Cats through and through. Okay, you cover Skimble.
I love it.
You covered a little bit about Holding Around Me. Let's talk about Jenny Any Dots.
Jenny, come on. She's everyone's favorite.
I don't think that's true. I think she's pretty universally hated by a lot of people.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Who hates Jenny Any Dots? She is just, she is a ball of fun. She loves to do all the local productions. She's in all the, she's the star of everything. She sews all the costumes. She made those nice costumes. She made those, she decorated the evening. She was the one that got there early and put up the Christmas lights. She is that, like, she should be that, like, first grade teacher that everyone loves.
Okay. So is she mom to a bunch of these cats too?
I think she's a mom figure. I don't know if she actually has any of these cats. And also, like, maybe, but Jenny has a collar. So that's the other thing that I don't know if people have talked about, that, whether you have a collar or not a collar. And Jenny has a collar. So she definitely has a family. She is definitely taken care of. So I don't know if I don't think she brought any of her children with her to this party, but she does take care of them. She sees them out the window and she goes, oh, there goes Syllabub. Okay. And then when she sees her, she takes care of her.
What about Bustifer?
Bustifer. Oh, we love Bustifer. Well, he's just everyone's just favorite. I keep saying that about every cat, but they are. He's that big alley cat that just kind of everyone takes care of. He comes around, gets the scraps from all the pubs, and everyone loves him.
What's his role with the Jellicles? Like, does he have a role?
No. He's just a passerby. He's like a visitor. He's not really part of our tribe, but he kind of comes in and he visits, and we love him, and he goes on his way to the next one. He's probably visiting several tribes this evening. We're not the only Jellicle tribe. There are many. This is just the one that we are looking at.
God, okay.
So,
that's going to be a question I'm going to ask here in a second. I want to ask about the tribe in general, but I want to go through Gus, because I think Gus is obviously a major contender for Jellicle choice.
Well, Gus would have been chosen. Gus was the choice.
So Gus was a choice until Grisabella came back.
Gus was the choice beforehand. Munkustrap knows this. Jelly Lorem knows this. Everyone sort of knows it's Gus's year. God bless him. He's made it. We can't believe he's even made it to this. And it's not until Grisabella shows up that we go, oh, wait a minute. And it probably would not be Grisabella if Deuteronomy was not there and said, wait a minute, maybe you should look at Grisabella. Like, Gus is okay. Gus will be fine. He's had a great life. He's lived a great life. Let's look at choosing Grisabella. Because we'll learn something, the bigger picture, the bigger lesson will be from choosing Grisabella.
Okay. Hold that thought, because that's my last question, and we're going to go deep into that, because I have a lot of thoughts and questions for you about that particular choice.
Yes, because was the right cat chosen? I have two answers for you, but yes, I'm holding on to it.
I want to ask one more question about as a director and kind of going through this about we see one ball, and it's an annual thing. And I think I thought Old Deuteronomy was there every year, and that the cats kind of all come together from different parts, and this is like an annual cultish tribe tradition where they do their sacrifice. But you're kind of saying it's not always that. It's like, we're seeing this is a really unique party. We're seeing that because Old Deuteronomy is coming to see his son for the first time, or maybe in a long time, and Bustifer's just kind of passing through, and he's not actually even part of this tribe necessarily. But is this not an annual thing? Like, is that not the way we look at this?
It's absolutely annual for these. It's just that these parts don't always happen. So Jellicle cats meet once a year, right? That's in the text. So we know that is true. Munkustrap is usually in charge. This thing is, Deuteronomy is coming in. He's also late. He's not there at the beginning, right? So this is a thing that if it's a special thing that he's coming. Grisabella's not always there. She knows that this is the night, so she's gonna try. She's also probably heard, because she's late as well, that Deuteronomy is there. So she's like, I gotta get there. This is it. This is my one shot. I gotta get there. So it is, I think you've got to think of this night as it happens once a year. There is a plan. Jenny's not really, those early cats, Tucker isn't really going for it. Jenny isn't going for it. They're just performing because it's a party and they're happy to be there. And no one's really going for it, which is why it's like this competition thing, because it's already been decided that it's Gus. Like, Gus is getting it 100%. The rest of us are just like having a party, performing for each other. It isn't until I've lost my train of thought, but like this, the Grisabella comes in, and Deuteronomy comes in, and Demeter comes in, and Macavity comes in. That these major interruptions to the night that give the the something to do, the conflict. Sorry, can't even think of the word. The conflict of the evening are these four major interruptions to the night. If not, it would just be a little American Idol ball, and we'd perform and go home. Yes.
So do you think if I'm last year's ball, somebody gets picked. Monkish Trap now is doing it. Old Deuteronomy's not even there. Grisabelle's still out on her own. Busterfer might not show up. Like, it's just not a big thing.
No, I think it is a big thing.
Okay.
I think it's a big thing. But it's a heightened thing this year. You know what I mean? Like, it's major this year for some reason, because all these things have converged. This is like the year. Oh my God, were you there? Were you there that year for Jellicle Ball? Like, I think we pick one. Everyone applauds. Yay! We send them on their way somehow. This tire doesn't always go up because Deuteronomy's not always there. This is like, so when that tire goes up and we're like, oh my God, like the cats are freaking out because this doesn't happen. We don't see this.
So you don't make a Jellicle sacrifice every year?
Yes, but not as dramatic as this. Right. It could be like, Gus is chosen. We're going to choose Gus. He walks around the corner. He's gone. Like, it's no big deal.
So interesting.
Right.
Okay. I want to get to the final piece because this is worth it. So I want to start the rapid fire. Rapid fire will be a couple of quick questions that we're going to talk about Grisabella and the Jellicle choice.
Okay.
So if you were to go on for one night, not as Mistoffelees, who would you want to play as for just one night? What track would you want to do?
Oh, Skimble.
Skimble. Love it. Who are your
or Gus?
Skimble or Gus?
As I get older, Gus.
But yeah,
because I understand Gus.
Okay.
You know, but
yeah, you could do through the years. You can play all the different characters. Who are your favorite and least favorite Jellicle cats?
Oh, you're gonna get me in trouble. I love all of them for different reasons, but I think there's something really magical about that triangle of Gorkapat, Tantamile, Cassandra, that mystic thing that they have that I really love. And then my least is probably like, I guess Plato. Like, Plato is Macavity that's like not Macavity, because it's like, I don't really know what Plato's doing there other than giving somebody stage time.
Yeah, is dancing. That's my answer is Peter from the 2016, which is just another one.
All the people that have played Plato and Macavity, but I'm just saying, like, as a story, you're like, what is Plato doing here?
Totally. I always say this is character, not actor and performer.
Right.
What's your favorite song from the show?
Oh gosh. I love Remarch, the cat, but I also love that overture. If I can pick the overture, because it is so 1982, and it is just maybe because I just heard it for so many years of my life that it just once you hear that da 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 da, it's just like,
it's iconic,
right back. Like, it just takes me back. So I think it's just that when you use, and there's no like thinking it's anything else. Like, you know that is Cats, whether you've seen Cats or not. You know that's Cats for some reason.
Yep. My last one before we get to the big one, which is if one cat was going to direct a musical, which one do you think would be best at doing it?
Oh gosh, sorry for the long pause. I'm having to think.
I have some answers if you're stuck.
I mean, I think Munkastrap and Jenny Any Dots would probably code do the thing, because that's what they do in the show. But I don't know. Skimble. Well, Skimble's going to be the stage manager. He's so meticulous that he's going to make sure that everyone's in place, all the costumes are done, the set is done. He's going to call the cues at the right time. Like, that is his thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's time to get into it. So take that moment back.
Oh my gosh.
And so there's a couple things that you've said today that I hadn't really thought about that doesn't change my answer to this question, but definitely makes me think about it. And one is that I had always assumed it was an old Deuteronomy decision every year. And you kind of saying, no, it's a Monkish Trap decision. every year, and Old Deuteronomy comes in. Does he make that decision and tell Monkish Trap, or is Monkish Trap really the decision maker? And Old Deuteronomy this year comes back, and when Grisabella comes back, he's like, "Hey, son, you gotta rethink this."
No, Deuteronomy purposely does not choose Grisabella because he can't dictate who it is. He has to get all of us to decide collectively that Grisabella is the one that should be picked. And that's why we turn around in memory and we get up and we slowly go down. And I believe it's like Mistoffelees is the first one that actually like touches her and bows, and like then we pass her along as everyone's saying, "You are the one, you are the one, you are the one." And then at the end, Deuteronomy goes, "You are the one," and opens his arms, and she collapses into his arms. He's not the first one that picks her. He makes us decide collectively to go, and she is the right choice. He knows that as a community, we have to do that to be better as a community. He can't just, if he just picked her, we'd be like, okay.
So if I'm a year before and he's not there, is Monkish Trap trying to convince everybody to be aligned on Gus as the choice this year? Like, is it the same decision? So. Okay.
I think so, but I think everyone's aligned on Gus because it's just the obvious. Like, he's 96, it's his time, like, we love him. It's like, no one's arguing that it should not be Gus this year.
So he's the choice until Grisabella comes back. Old Deuteronomy's not even there. So it's basically, if we're led into this ball, and until the chaos ensues, we just assume Monkish Trap they're going to have a big party, they're going to have their orgy, Victoria's going to have her coming of age, and then we're going to pick Gus. And that's going to be the end of the thing. And it's not until, we're going to have some snacks. It's going to be great. But to your point, you're saying earlier that like, that you all were there. It's the year everyone's like, did you remember that year that Grisabella showed up?
That Demeter showed up, that McCavity showed up?
Yeah. Okay.
But that McCavity fight doesn't happen every year.
Yeah.
No.
I love it. Okay. So who are you picking? Like, you're picking Grisabella still? Like, what's your answer to that question?
Oh, well, it depended. I'm picking Grisabella in the show because that's the way it should be. But if we're going off American Idol rules, then I'm picking Mistoffelees because I had a 7.5 minute solo that I did every trick I knew how to do. I did magic tricks. I mean, I'm clearly Mistoffelees is the best choice of anyone. Like, that's my feeling.
So I love it because, so is there a thought that it's like an American Idol style party? Like, do you like direct it that way? Because that's the way I watched it.
No. I think everyone knows we're gathering this thing, we're making this kind of thing, but it's Gus, right? It's Gus. Everyone's saying it's Gus. Great. But we're all going to perform for each other and put on this show but no one is performing with the idea of I'm gonna win. It's not Six, like when those girls are. It's not that competition. So that we know who's gonna win.
That's how I interpreted the first time I saw it. But I saw Leona Lewis, so I thought X Factor, and so maybe I was almost conditioned to be like, oh, I'm like that's the way it kind of tees up, and that was my answer. Was from day one was Tugger and Mistoffelees together because I was gonna do the boy band together, and I thought those were two of the most fun performances on the show. So I love hearing that you have this American Idol version.
And Grisabella's not coming in to win. She's just coming in to give her story and say, please forgive me. Please. I know I was wrong, right? Like, I left.
If you had Grisabella in American Idol, she'd have a compelling little pre-package. You would have the whole, here's where she went off to do the redemption. Everyone would be crying, and by the time she finishes memory, she's got the story.
Yeah.
But I do think
and then she gets the song. She gets the song. One of the most iconic Broadway songs ever recorded.
Completely.
So
you're picking Grisabella every day.
I am picking Grisabella, but I mean, I'm gonna give a shout out to the Mistoffelees that work really hard and don't get picked. But it depends. If we're doing American Idol role, if we're doing those roles, then yeah.
So my last question for you is, we've talked about a lot of different things. You've heard kind of my show and you've heard some episodes with different, cast members and kind of the premise here. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you are like, this is what the Cats group needs, like the Cats fans need to know this. Like everyone gets this wrong or everyone has this right, but here's a tweak. Like, is there anything I missed that we're all missing that you as a director is like, they all need to pick this up?
Yeah, we did cover a lot of it today, which is awesome. And if other people, I'm happy to do another episode later.
Yeah, part two.
If part two, people like, no, this is wrong. But I have run into people that are like super fans that have this whole world invented. And unfortunately, they want me to believe, like, they're like, isn't that right? And I'm like, it's not what that's not what I was taught. Like, I'm sorry, that's not right. And that they just don't want to, like, they want to be right. So it's fine. I mean, I'm just like, I think that, I don't know. I think it's fine that you see those. I think you see those relationships. Like John Partridge and I, who played Tugger on the video, had this great relationship. He's just like, in life, he is the guy that he is Tugger. Everybody wants to be John. Boys like him, girls like him. Everybody likes him. Like he has that magnetic thing. And we became really good friends. And it's almost like that when I equate it for my life, when I was like growing up and the only boy dancing in my school, and suddenly the head football guy was like, hey, Jacob, sit with us at lunch. And you're like, oh my God, I get to sit with the cool kids. I feel like that is what Mistoffelees is to Tugger. He is like, oh man, Tugger's the man. And he wants to perform with me. Like, but it's more of that admiration and love that way than romantical, right? But I can see why people can kind of twist that.
Yeah, and I think it's people want to write fan fiction, and so it's an easy way to write it. It's a good story to write.
It's a good story, and like I said, there have been some personal connections, not me personally, but I know people that have. So maybe that has played into, they've seen a tour where that energy, you can catch up on that. Like the whole show is just energy, right? Because there's no lines, there's no words. So whatever's happening in that cast, you're going to pick up on.
And that's exactly where I think those super fans who come to you are coming from, which is like, I'm reading this interpretation because I saw the show this many times and I've now saw them like wink at each other, or like the extra paw to them at one moment. Right. And that's the assumption. And I think that's part of what makes the show.
Really the wink was like, girl, we're getting margaritas after the show, aren't we? Because I'm like exhausted, and we're like, and that's what you're reading. You know what I mean? Like it's tough. But ultimately, I'm so glad that people love the show. I'm so glad that people have this passion for it, and they want to continue it and see it continue on and let it grow. And it's just amazing to me. It's absolutely amazing. Cats has changed my life. 100% changed my life. And so just to have that, it's like it's flattering and fun, and as long as people don't get like crazy about it, and like they're like want to fight you because you're and you're like, I'm not going to fight you over this. Like that is not the information I have. But
I have not run into that. I have found fans have opinions, and they've made the I've had some where I've joked that like, oh, here's this love triangle, I think for sure, and here's this, and it's like, but yeah, it's I my joke too is I've always thought Grisabel's the wrong Jokel choice, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I mean that's so true, and then I'm like, yeah, but that could be definitively answered as incorrect by the people that created the show in the beginning of like, here's why they made that decision. And so it's like, it's fun. And I think what makes the show so great is that a world was built to where there is enough opportunity to expand beyond it. And that's why it's still running and why there's so many productions still going. That and the incredible dancing and singing and all the other little minor things. But it's just a world that's been built.
And it's universal, right? It's universal. There's no language barrier for anybody. And then there is this thing about community and coming together and empathy. And that is always going to be a universal idea and thought that's going to resonate in any decade that we're in. So that's why I think it just continues.
Well, I might take you up on part 2. I'm going to put it out to the universe of the people who have questions or thoughts or different things. Like, I'm going to collect them all and I'm going to come back and we're going to hopefully be able to do a part 2 with some very specific questions.
I would love that. Let's do a part 2 and we'll take people's questions.
I got it. I will be, that's what I'm going to put out into the world when we launch this, is that I'm sure
I love it.
I'm going to get a good amount of questions for you. So how can people stay in touch with you? Social media, website, different things?
Yeah, at Jacob Brentstagram is my Instagram. Jacob Brentstagram. And I'm on Facebook, but I don't really do much on that. So the best thing is Instagram.
Awesome. Well, this has been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing a lot of things I had no idea, which is why I was so excited to talk to you, because I knew I'd get definitive answers on some things, or a director's vision of it versus the performer's vision of it and the performer's vision of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love it. I can talk about cats all day. It's really, there's such a place in my heart for it. And I love it's such a place in a lot of people's hearts. And so I just want to celebrate those people. We're all in that same tribe together.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The Wrong Cat Died, or check out our website, thewrongcatdied.com.